Hello there, I'm Black White News, and I came across an interesting article this evening, and it was by Sky News, and it was talking about how can you avoid a nuisance neighbour before you buy a property. And I thought, what an interesting topic, because it's not something that you see very often. And, when you're investing like 25 years, mortgage, regardless of whether how long you're going to pay it off, you're investing a lot of money when you move into a house. And a lot of us, if you're anything like me, I'm I'm blown away by aesthetics. I have a certain idea about what I want a house to look like that I'm interested in and its potential. So it doesn't have to be picture perfect, but it does need to be able to fulfill my criteria at that particular time. So I remember, well, I won't say I remember, about 20 years ago, I bought a bungalow. It was a fixer upper because it was a probate property. But I saw the potential and so I decided to buy it. It was on a very decent street and, had good reviews for the area. And I knew that it was a good buy. What I didn't bargain on was that my neighbour didn't like black people. So he says he's going to set his dogs on me and he's going to be playing loud music and goodness knows what. Anyway, he started playing his loud music and I started playing mine and I said, I'm a DJ, so yeah, let's have a kind of a sound clash. And I made light of it. Long and short of it is that after about 2 or 3 years we became best of friends. He would take my bins out and everything, but I could not have foreseen that when I was buying the property. I couldn't have foreseen that that neighbour was going to be such a pain in the butt for the first couple of years. And like I said, we ended up being best of friends in the end because I think people, they're just fearful. And I think I was the first black person on the street, and there was just a bit worried that I might not keep the street up. Mind you, his house looked like a mess, but hey. So, how do you know what your neighbours are going to be like when you're buying a home? Because when you decide to buy a home, your focus is really on the home at the time. You're thinking, has it got everything I need? Has it got storage? Has it got plugs? Is it well maintained? Does it fit my criteria? Is it fit for purpose? You don't really think about neighbours. If you go to a home and you see the next door looks all unkempt, then yes, it might draw your attention to the neighbours. But if you go to a home and the street looks pleasant and the houses look reasonably well maintained, you're going to be focusing on the house that you're going to buy. So there was giving us some tips on what to look out for to make sure when you buy a property you don't end up with public nuisance neighbours. And the first thing that they really advised was to speak to your neighbours, the few neighbours that are immediately adjacent to your homes. Knock on the door, introduce yourself, take a peek, to see how the house is kept, because that's a good indicator. You don't know what's going on behind doors. And the fact, even if they don't open the door, that's a sign that you haven't got friendly neighbours. And if they do open the door, you get an opportunity to see whether or not the house looks reasonable, decent, well maintained. So it gives you an idea of and it also gives you can get some kind of clue about what your neighbour is like. Now, you do not know at that time whether your neighbour is actually a landlord, do you? So he might be a landlord and he's rented out the property. And so you don't know how long those tenants that were once nice are going to last. And so you've got all of these kind of things that you don't really think about when you're going to buy a property. So the time is running out. Let me see what I've written down here. You've seen a beautiful home, can't believe your luck, and then you find out you have nuisance neighbours. They're playing drum and bass, there's arguments, there's domestic abuse, there's all sorts going on. Sellers are legally obliged to disclose details of previous ongoing disputes, but will they do that? It could lead to legal action, but at what expense to you? So it's best to do your homework yourself. Be a detective. You can go to the council and see how many noise complaints that's been made for that area or the road that you're on. You can also, you have that app called Nextdoor. And sometimes if you go to the area and you get the app for that area and you actually put in noise or nuisance, you're going to get all of those people in that area telling you what is actually going on in that area, and it'll give you an indication. It might even show that they're on your street where these problems are happening, but at least you can get an idea. What else have I got here? Sellers unlikely to volunteer about any disputes. Be a detective. Speak to neighbours. Peek around and see what you can see. Are they friendly? I've got lovely neighbours where I am. It's funny because when I first came to where I live now, I thought, oh my God, they look a bit dodgy. They look a bit BNP. And then honestly, my neighbours are the best neighbours. Anyway, look out for abandoned cars or cars in driveways or prams outside or uncollected items in the area, in the vicinity. So it gives you an idea about what the neighbourhood is like. I was always told to look at the car registrations to see if they are the same as your registration and above, and that will tell you a little bit about the class of the people that you're living with. It doesn't really matter what registration it is, but it should be within your registration and higher. Some local councils keep a register of noise complaints. Check them out. Nextdoor, I've already said that about that app. Uncollected items, I've already said that. Check out neighbours on Sundays. Yeah, when you're going to go to look at these houses, go on different days, different times of the day, different days of the week, nighttime, that kind of stuff. Nighttime, you might see kids gathering around. Does that make you feel safe? What are the crime stats in the area? If your neighbour or landlord, is your neighbour a landlord? So many owners are renting out their homes these days, so you don't know who's going to be in your house, who's going to be next door at any given time. Get a solicitor to ask the questions if you don't feel comfortable asking them. How many times has the house been sold? That's usually an indicator. Zoopla, you can find that out through Zoopla, Rightmove. They have historical sales. Check the house and the street, different times of day. I've already said that. Yeah, so basically, I know I've rushed it. Oh yeah, and if you might not be a dog lover, or you might be a dog lover, but pets can be a nuisance. Is the dog going to be barking all night? Are you going to be able to sleep? How thin are the walls? So once you get beyond finding the house of your dreams, you then have to take a step back and become practical and think, yes, this is the house of my dreams, but how you live in the house of your dreams often depends on your environment and the people around you. Are you going to feel safe? Are you going to be disturbed at night? Are you going to have teenagers and bikes? Like every year during the summer, we have these kids on those bikes, those really noisy bikes. It's for about a month in the year, and they go all around the park, and you're just like, for me, I just think I've become immune to it. But it's things like that. Have you got triple glazing? Will you need triple glazing? Anyway, I'm running out of time. I hope this is helpful for anybody who's thinking of buying a home, that your neighbours are important, and so are you.